And it would not be a Sixers season if we did not have a bizarre off-the-court storyline to follow along with the on-court success, and we have just that, as Tobias Harris is now suspected of having some burner account activity. Whether this is Tobias Harris or someone surrounded by him, someone close to the situation, it does seem like there's some pretty damning evidence, and shout out to the guys over at crossingbroad.com who did kind of bring this to light, write an article about it. So I want to pull up the specific examples, the tweets that did occur. This all occurred after last night's playing game, a firestorm of tweets between midnight and 2 a.m., which, if you want to connect some dots, is just about enough time to finish the game, go shower, do your post-game media availability, go home, and then rip off Twitter. And every single tweet from this mysterious account is revolving around Tobias Harris. So I want to start off and point out the count here. Shout out to Chris Oley, who did pull this up with a quote tweet and kind of expose things, saying, read through this account's tweets. I think it's Tobias Harris's burner, LOL. Now, this Jimmy Smith has since deactivated his account and deleted all posts. To me, unfortunately, that is further evidence in this point that I think that's like the number one mistake that people make when they are caught in this type of situation. And by the way, Sixers fans have plenty of experience with this, as it is not too long ago that we lived through the Brian Colangelo burner gate, going through where he was tweeting confidential information about Joel Embiid, about Nerlens Noel, about Jahlil Okafor, and ultimately led to him being fired. Now, I know that it was blamed on his wife. I do think the wife was the fall man on this, but back to the story of tonight, it is Tobias Harris. So to pull up a couple examples here, I just wanted to pull up from this tweet. So this on a reply from John Clark here, saying, hear from the Sixers fans on advancing to the playoffs with the help of Boom Boom Batum, now on NBC 10. And this Jimmy Smith character comments, one good game and everyone loves him. Meanwhile, fans disrespecting a guy who has been here for 6 years, who is battling through injury. No wonder why everyone says Philly fans suck. Another example here, we have Tobias, the initial tweet being, Tobias Harris pulling all this bullshit, yet he makes more money than our bloodlines in the WNBA combined, LMFAO. To which the reply is, he earned every damn dollar. Why don't you quit pocket watching other men and make something out of your own life instead of tearing down others? Now, another example that I did pull up here, this being the initial quote on the Tobias Harris experience. So I think we all remember the period of time in which Tobias missed several layup opportunities in a row, did get his own offensive rebound. And I will say, for the record here, I don't think last night was a terrible Tobias Harris performance. And I am going to touch on more of his on-court play in a minute. But I didn't think last night was like the peak or the valley of either direction of his game. I thought it was a fine game. He played okay. No one on the Sixers played great last night. But this was highlighting his worst moment of the game, which the box score there, and it just says the Tobias Harris experience, to which the replies are, this is what you get when you try to play through an injury in Philadelphia. Nothing but abuse. No worse fans in America than Philly fans. And then again, Tobias living rent-free in your head. Let it go, man. We won tonight. Be happy. Let Tobias live a little. Don't see you talking shit about Oubre and his 7 points. So a lot to go off there. Again, I don't know if this is Tobias Harris. I will point out once again, the account has now been deactivated completely, all the tweets deleted, which I do think is a red flag in this type of situation, specifically when it was brought to light and it was brought to the attention once again by Chris Oley there, that it was completely taken down. And we've seen several different examples of athletes with burn in the past. I know Kevin Durant is the number one that pops to people's mind. I'll start by saying I have zero issue with athletes having burners. In fact, I think it's kind of cool if you do want to hop off the grid, see things through kind of a neutral lens rather than having to be your professionalism self where people are monitoring who you're following, what you're tweeting. And that's completely fine in my mind. However, you can't slip up and do something like this if that is the case. That it could not be more blatantly obvious that every single tweet is in response to something about Tobias Harris, and specifically, none of them are tagging him, that you have to go out of your way to find that. So I'm not saying this is Tobias. It could very well be somebody in his circle. I do think this is somebody that's connected, that I don't think there's any passionate Tobias Harris fans ready to ride that heavily for the boy. But the main point being here is the Sixers still need this guy for a playoff run. And I've been pretty low on Tobias. And one of the reasons that I do think sparked kind of this outrage is because that victory in the play-in tournament was the first time that we had seen Tobias not be in the closing lineup. And to pull up his box score exactly, he still clocked 33 minutes on the game, but produced just 9 points, did have 10 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 4 of 10 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. But as I mentioned, he was pulled for the final lineup. And Nick Nurse was asked about it after the game, to which he replied, Nick Nurse says that he decided to take Tobias Harris out with about 4 minutes left because he felt Harris was running on empty and had, quote, played his guts out. Said that was the time of the game he expected Lowry to make a big play, so he made the change. For Nick Nurse here, this is a Doc Rivers level lie, but I have no problem with him saying it. That whatever you got to say to keep the dude happy, I am completely fine with. The bottom line is you made the right decision for this Sixers team, and they won almost as a direct result of it. Maybe they still won that game with Tobias, but they certainly had a greater chance without. It was not his night. This wasn't a matchup in which he was shining, and they were better off with the guys like Kyle Lowry, like Kelly Oubre, and certainly like Nico Batum, who was the star of the night. That was a big part of why that Tobias just simply wasn't in the closing lineup, and that is something that I want to see moving forward. That when you look at this Sixers team, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are the only players that should be locked in on finishing every ball game. The other three spots should be dependent on the matchup, who's playing well, and who just gives this team the best chance to win. In a lot of nights, that may not be Tobias Harris. And I know I've kind of battled the frustration throughout the entire regular season that we continue to see Tobias Harris pencil in for 38 minutes and be a part of that closing lineup. And I've hesitated to be directly critical of Nick Nurse about it for this very reason. The goal of all that time was to get Tobias Harris playing his best ball come playoff time. I don't think benching him in the regular season would have been the steps that took you in that direction. But now that we are in the playoffs, this is where the true judgments can be made. That this is where Nick Nurse makes his money, butters his bread, and proves why he is the championship coach that he has already shown to be. And he did just that last night in the playing game by making the necessary adjustments. Now for Tobias, I do feel bad for him from a human being level. He is one of the most stand-up guys across the entire NBA. He's a guy who does play hard. It's not his fault, a lot of the criticism that falls his direction, that he was not the one that offered that contract to himself. And contracts come with expectations in the NBA. And frankly, he was handed a deal that he was never quite capable of living up for. He's the highest paid player in NBA history to never make an All-Star game. But again, that is the Sixers' fault for offering him that contract. The Elton Brand era of the front office for handing him that deal that he could not fill the shoes that it dictated that he did. So for Tobias, I do have a bit of a soft spot, but the bottom line is every goal at this point is about winning a championship. And if that means putting him on the bench for a little extended period of time, that's exactly what the Sixers do. And I do have some good news for Tobias in this regard because the check cashes either way, my guy. So don't be too heartbroken because it is the exact same in the end. It may hurt the pride a little bit, but I would just rather you do what's best for the team and stay off Twitter in the process. I do want to hear from you guys if you do think this is. It would be very funny if we do have another burner account situation. I doubt this is ever cleared up, that this may be one of those situations that just kind of lies in Sixers lore. If this was Tobias Harris, this was a pretty clear misstep by being as obvious about it as it was. But I think if you pinned me down and asked me who exactly it is, what exactly happened here, I think it's more likely that it was either Tobias's brother, Tobias's uncle, father, something like that, one of his family members that was just frustrated at the state of the team. And by the way, to note one more time that a lot of this, or for this one here, a lot of it mentioning him being injured, I do think is notable. Like as you can see in this line here, this is what you get when you try and play through an injury in Philadelphia. That is stuff that is not publicly available, that he is not on the injury report by any means. So there is at least some little insider information there. You also can check out on Crossing Broad. They have several more examples of tweets that were sent. I didn't want to dive fully down the rabbit hole. I think you guys could get the picture from that. But the bottom line is I do hope Tobias Harris is more focused on improving his game on the court than ripping off tweets with those Twitter fingers. We'll see what happens from here. We have a matchup against the New York Knicks to win, so let's see what happens if Tobias is a part of that. And by the way, Tobias has struggled quite a bit against the Knicks so far this year, so I wouldn't expect much changes as far as the closing lineup will occur. Either way, appreciate you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on the video, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.